Howdy Ags, welcome back to Aggie Growth Hacks, the podcast sponsored by the McFerrin Centers for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M, where we help Ags improve their business, connect with other Aggie entrepreneurs, and support one another. I'm your host, Greg Martin, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2001.
And I'm your co-host, Chris Hunter, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 1998. Whoop!
Well, we got a special story for you, Ags. John Albers is the president and CEO of Albers Aerospace, the fastest growing Aggie-owned company in 2020. That's right. John and his team were the number one company at this year's Aggie 100 celebration. And when you talk with John, you realize that it is not about him. It is all about him and his team.
So pass it back and listen up to John as he shares some good bull.
Welcome back, Ags. And John, thank you so much for joining us, especially it is freezing cold out where you are. I think you're joining us from Minnesota today, so you're a long way from your Texas roots, but you're here at Aggie Growth Hacks, and thank you so much for joining us.
Bet. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, we loved celebrating and seeing you at the last Aggie 100. Again, congratulations on that win for you and your team. But let me ask you, what do you miss about being a student at A&M?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm fortunate. My parents actually, they moved there in 92 or 91, 91, right before I got married. And anyway, so I do get to go back, but like the being the student part, I was in the Corps of Cadets. I miss walking on campus, especially as a zip, man. Walking on campus, you're kind of a big deal. The boots, the clanking of the boots, and saying howdy to everybody, getting whipped to, some fish whipping out to you who's scared to death, doesn't know what he's done, and you're just telling him, "Hey, man, it's going to be okay, buddy. You're going to get through that, and it'll be great on the other side." Because the Aggie network is amazing. Having spent 24 years in the Corps and being gone, it's good, but till you come back to Texas, then you're like, dude, this thing's like legit here, right? It's like, it's certainly concentrated, but the Aggie network is real outside of the state as well. And so it's just that part's, I've shared with some folks, those of us who are Aggies, the spirit of Aggie land is people, right? It's really people that buy into the culture and the value system that's been cultivated since 1876, man. And it's awesome. It really is. When you think about it, it's like, man, it'd be fun to meet those dudes way back in the day who had that idea and it grew like smokes, man. That's pretty stinking cool. So I miss that, but I try to get back there once a year so I can, get on the campus, feel it. I got to go twice because I went the first football game of this past season, and then Aggie 100, got to come back for that. So that was really awesome.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So tell us a little bit about your business, if you will, Albers Aerospace, and really how did you get into that, and what is it?
Yeah, sure. So I said I spent 24 years in the Corps. In the Marine Corps, I was fortunate about halfway through, a little bit less than halfway through, I got selected for the Navy Test Pilot School. So I went to Pax River, graduated from there, class 117. They pick 6 Marines a year, per class. So only 12 guys per year to become test pilots. So a pretty small group, very fortunate to do that. And then ended up what I thought was going to be like a terminal kill my career kind of thing. Ended up I got sucked into program management and helping the Marine Corps do engineering and buy airplanes, right? Working with Sikorsky and Lockheed, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So that's where I got the concept, right? I was the first Marine to get to command VX-20, which is one of the 4 test squadrons at Pax River. And while there, I thought I would get passed over for promotion to colonel. So I figured I better figure out what I'm going to do, man, when I get done being this Marine thing, and just spent a lot of time praying about it and knew I wanted to go into business. And it's funny because at that point I was like, oh, I'm going to do this aerospace stuff and it'll be awesome. But when I retired, I went and tried some retail thing with my brother-in-law, who I love to death, my wife's brother. And we got our rear end kicked, man, just smoked. And so I worked for a big contractor. And that was where, again, a lot of time in prayer and like, you know what? I need to go back and do what I know how to do, which is aerospace and defense. So we do engineering, we do manufacturing, and we fly airplanes and help people maintain them, touch them. That's really what we do, right? So a broad thing. From the beginning, I wanted to be diversified. Some people start off with just one thing, maybe it's engineering or just manufacturing. Because of my experience, and I say I was the customer once, because I was as a Marine in uniform and helping the Marine Corps buy airplanes. I knew there's value in being able to cross that spectrum. I knew it'd be hard to get there, but that was my goal, was to do it that way. So anyway, so that's what we did, man. And it's been a fun ride. I did it by myself as a one-man band for 3 years, till summer of 18, just out there humping it, putting in a red ass 90 hours a week, doing whatever it took to get, to get the thing going. Cause hey, if I'm going to build something of significance, it's not a 40-hour week, 8 to 5 thing. I got to do what I got to do. And so I worked my tail off, had a consultant actually tell me I wouldn't succeed. And I remember where I was in my house when he told me that. And I said, why do you think that? He's like, you're trying to do too much. And I said, and he's like, you'll never be able to do all those things. I said, well, that's the fundamental problem between you and me. I believe in leadership. And if I can attract the right people and lead them well and create an environment where I can turn them loose to do what fires them up, I will achieve my goals. And then I said, and by the way, you don't tell Marine he's going to fail, because now I'm going to kill myself proving you wrong, dude. and so I worked my tail off to prove him wrong. And so anyway, not that that's healthy and all that good as a man of faith, but that was what was going on inside. And so August of 18, the first guy said yes. I chased him like a girl and finally got him to say yes and come aboard. And then we just started to take off, man. Momentum started to happen. We finished 18 with about 10, 11 people. And then we finished 19 somewhere in the 40-ish number of people on the team. Wow. And then in 20, we got all the way we finished 20 with 72-ish people. So our revenue, I said earlier, 500K, 523K, 3.99, and then 9.98 or something. So call it 10. We'll round it up. We're Aggies. We'll round it up. Yeah, phenomenal. Just again, great team. One guy can't do that. And I want to say that over and over. One guy cannot do that. So I'm very fortunate to have a lot of people that are bought into the vision and have owned it themselves. And I don't own 100% of the company. I gave parts of a significant piece of the company away to incentivize people to think like owners, because, that big things happen when that happens. And where did I learn that? From reading a lot, right? And just reading. So anyway.
No one's going to care about the company as much as the owners, and there is a difference between well-paid and equity ownership.
For sure. I think, and I've been in my time, I have seen some companies that have paid people ridiculously well, but they haven't created the culture and the environment that gets buy-in, and money will carry the day for a while. But if people don't have good leadership, they're not empowered to be themselves in their own leadership environment. I have a phrase about be a leader in your sphere. Like, you may not have a title that cries leadership, but man, be a leader in your sphere and make a difference there. And so if you create, I'm a big believer, and I'm watching it happen. If you create that sort of environment, then you don't have to pay people crazy money. They'll be endeared, because money's great, but personal satisfaction and what's the word I want to use here? You guys are smart guys. You talked to a bunch of people. Give me the word. Just
internal motivation.
Well, yeah, internal motivation, like the satisfaction. I want to be fulfilled. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm fulfilled not by money. You need money. I got it. But man, I want to know that my life's making a difference and I'm having an impact on the people around me and the customer. We're building something that's significant and fun. Life's too short for work to suck. We got to make it fun, right? And I'm pretty intense and pretty serious guy, and but I like to have fun. I like to laugh. I got to laugh at myself. That's for doggone sure. So anyway, I think all of those components matter and contribute to the growth. Because to your point, money's not it. I've seen businesses that pay people really well and they're failing because as soon as bad things start to happen, and they will, the money's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Right. So.
But John, I want to circle back to something you kind of jumped over it as part of your story, but the failed business where you went into retail, and what was the one or two things that you took away from that seeded your success for when you went back into business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, the reason we failed, we overpaid for that operation, and we didn't consider the infrastructure costs, mostly rent, and how that fit into our business. So that when we took a hit on revenue pretty quick after we bought an existing entity, when the revenue took a hit, when you've overpaid for something and your rent's not right size, man, you're screwed. I mean, I had a long commercial rent, lease, right? I mean, there was, and nobody's interested in helping you out. They're just not. You signed up and personally guaranteed stuff. You got to fix it, man. And so what I learned there was, don't ever overpay. Watch closely your like ratios. Some industries have standard numbers that you should look at. I didn't know that till I got my head cracked open with a bat. And in my business, I didn't have those ratios, but I was just hyper conscious about costs, right? I'm going to have to pay real attention to costs. And so we've built a lean team. I mean, for the folks on my team, many of whom are Aggies that are going to listen to this, Christy Moats, Dave Thompson, I know y'all work your tail off. You put in crazy hours. And I will say on this podcast, thank you. And there's a lot, not just them, there's lots of people that put in so much freaking time because we stay thin. And the reason is because if we're not thin as a staff, we won't be as competitive, but also there are cycles and we're going to take hits. And when we take those hits, if we've gotten kind of fat and lazy, then because times are good, then we're going to have to do the ugly thing and tell somebody they got to go, which I don't want to do. Right. So I wait till we're just compelled to add more. And that came out of that failed environment, right? Where we just had so much cost and I couldn't, it's just ugly, but you learn, right? And the other thing I will say this, I had an MBA. It wasn't some for prestigious school, but I had one. There's nothing like doing cash flow till you got to do free cash flow. When it's not just fill out this equation or ask these questions on a thing and build me a cash flow plan. It's easy to build a cash flow plan. Go execute the dadgum.
Yeah, go execute. Yeah. The banker part of me appreciates you so much for saying.
Oh my gosh. Like, dude, it's Wednesday and we got freaking payroll on Friday. And a lot of times as a banker, hey, my AR looks awesome. Who cares if you can't turn that into freaking dollars? You're out of schlitz, man.
That's when you go get a bat and start collecting. It's like, I'm gonna bust some of these because I gotta make payroll, man.
I gotta make payroll, baby. Because I tell people all the time, our customers are, net 30, net 45. I've had a couple big ones tell me they want me to be net 90. And I'm like, you're gonna ask me as a little small bank? Like, come on, man. But we don't call people employees, we call teammates. Employees to me feels like they're just a piece of the machine. A teammate, man, we're trying to we're trying to win a game, right? We're all teammates on here and everybody's got a role. All roles matter. But our teammates, man, they're net zero. They want their paycheck when it's due, right? And so you've got to balance that as an owner. Cash flow's real. So I hawk the crap out of cash flow. Even now, I still hawk it super freaking close. Why? Because you never hardly ever get paid on time. Everybody's got an excuse, to include the big companies, as to why they or their process. Hey, yeah, you invoiced me on that day, but I don't batch till 10 days later, and it's net 30 on the batch date. You're like, oh my gosh, wish I'd have known that. I didn't know that till I was screaming at you. Why am I not getting paid on day 31, baby? Let's go.
Yeah, a good friend of mine said that AR, you're consistent with AR. You're either consistently on it and gonna get paid, or you're consistently not on it and you're gonna chase it.
Yeah. Yep, that's a great one for sure.
Well, John, can you tell us, and I bet you I can answer this question for you, but what was the tipping point that really took your business to the next level?
That's another really good question. So I think two things, maybe three. And for those of you listening, they did send me questions in advance that I did not have. So I'm literally flying by the seat of my pants. Acceleration. So again, being a voracious reader, you know, and one lady, gal in the company, she said to me in the midst of some things like, "Hey, I'm not sure I'm not sure I'm ready for this. I've got a lot of experience, but not like in this space." And I said, "Hey, you know," I kind of looked around like, "I'm gonna let you know a dirty little secret. I've never done this before either. I've never started from one guy and built a company. So we're figuring this out as we go." But I do read a lot, right? I read a lot, and not just like stuff in my industry. I try to read all kinds of different industries because I think there's tidbits for us in all those spaces. So the tipping point, one of the things I read over time and talking to business owners 20 years older than me, 30 years older, what would you do different? One of them said, I'd buy growth, right? So part of our story, we started clipping along there in 18, and I had a chance to acquire a small company that was doing about 2.5 million a year. It's pretty small, but they had a services contract in it. That was the prime was a company called Vertex Aerospace, now called Vertex, the Vertex company. And I was like, dude, I want that thing. So we did the deal. There was some other stuff. Some manufacturing stuff ended up not sticking with us, but I took that contract and went into Vertex's office and sat down with their senior vice president and said, you know, this is who I am. It's my background. I just bought this. I'm your new guy, and I'm going to be the best sub you've ever had. And he was like, okay, prove it to me. And I'll give you the chance to prove it to me. And so we turned that thing into a second contract. We're now in a mentor protege. It's a formal program in the Department of Defense with the Vertex company.
Very cool.
So I would say that was a pretty significant event, if you will, doing that and then working really hard. Like I can't remember if we talked in the preamble about executing, right? You got to execute. Relationships and all that will get you in the door, but you got to execute that piece. And then along that way, as we started to get what now doesn't seem like a ton of momentum, but 100% growth from 2 people to 4, that's big, it's big. And so you start to get some momentum around the talent piece. And
that's what I was going to guess. I was going to guess your team.
Yeah. I get to start talking to people who are maybe slightly dissatisfied with the big company. Like, hey man, you want to come over here? 1, we're going to have a great time. 2, I'll make it worth your while. Maybe not in pay right away, but I'll let you be a part of the ownership team. I want you to be a part of the ownership team. And then I want you to build something that fires you up. Right. And so just recruiting that way, you're right. It turned into talent. So I would say that probably the Vertex piece, and then really just recruiting talent. And then probably the third thing would be, I was a 295 guy at A&M. Okay. So I was an engineering major. I think I had, and I'm not joking, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure I had the same GPA to like the 4th digit for 6 of the 9 semesters I was there. I couldn't break 3.0 except for one time. And that was my junior year. And I had it was before I went to OCS the second time. And I had a bunch of military stuff in there I got extra A's in. So,
yeah, but that doesn't help.
No, right. So I tell people like, look, man, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not dumb, but my wife was an honors grad. She's my bonfire buddy. She's class of 92. She's my bonfire buddy. She's a smart one. She graduated with a bunch of them extra freaking names after her on her diploma, right? Mine's
nice.
And and I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. So all of this is super
the people,
gold.
So the Vertex, the talent, the people, and then you might have to start that one over.
Buying growth.
Yeah.
Buying growth was a part of the Vertex thing. Dadgummit, where was, because the third thing was good. I got to think anyway. It'll come back to me. I shouldn't have started talking about my wife. Then I got distracted. Problem. I was talking about my wife. I got freaking distracted. Dadgummit. 31 years, almost 31 years.
Yeah, congratulations.
She still twists me up, and she still twists me up after almost 31 years.
Yeah, that's better than any Aggie 100 win, though. That's congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's put up with a lot of junk along the way, boys. Don't let's not kid ourselves. So anyway, yeah, growth. People buying a little bit, and then there's something else in there that'll come back here that was good. So anyway, just keep trucking.
No, it's all good. That's all good stuff. So let me ask real quick.
Mhm.
right? We talk on our podcasts here. We talk about our big, hairy, audacious goals, right?
Mhm.
And we talk about this as our moonshot. So what is your big, hairy, audacious goal? What's your BHAG? What's your
Yeah.
moonshot, your 5-10 year moonshot?
Yeah. I tell people I'm actually shooting for Jupiter, dude. And then I figure if I get into low Earth orbit, I've still done pretty doggone good. Um, um, another part of my deal, so people can start to do the math. Graduate from A&M in '90, so I'm 53 years old. Retired from the Marine Corps in 2014. So I was 46 years old when that happened. I'm 53 now. I'm not going to be Warren Buffett. Not happening. There's not enough runway in front of me for that to happen. So I'm not doing this. Am I trying to make some money? Absolutely. What excites the crap out of me is building something. That's what really lights me up, right? Building something. And then, like I mentioned earlier, being a part of a team where I can look around and the people that I'm with, man, they're like, dude, I'm living the best version of me right now because the environment John created, that's worth more than dollars in a bank account to me. And I instill that in my kids because it's just as a leader, dude, and I don't know, that's not exactly how the Marine Corps teaches it, but it's a real close version of it. It's your best value as a leader is what happens to those around you, not what happens to you. And so again, the preamble, I drank that Kool-Aid. I took injections in my arms on it. I'm totally bought in, and I'll go to my grave with that philosophy, because I also know when they write the obit and people stand up and talk about me, they won't be talking about what's in my bank account. They're going to talk about the impact that I had on other people. And so that's what drives me. So my big, hairy, audacious goal is I am trying to build something really big. If I'm totally transparent, it's got another, we're going to, our forward run right now, we had 2 acquisitions this year. The Aggie 100 growth was all what we would call organic. It was just winning new work and attracting talent. In 21, we acquired 2 companies, one in July and one in November. And so that puts us on a forward portfolio run of north of $30 million a year. And
Wow.
which is just crazy, right? I just boggle, even to say it, I'm like, oh my gosh. Part of it's
So
like,
I think this is the first time someone celebrated Aggie 100 by going out and buying a company, because you celebrated October and you closed on the second one in November.
Second one in November, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So again, part of my deal is like, hey, if you don't go big, go home. Like, if you're not going to go big, go home. And that's not to belittle or put down somebody who's content and having a small business. Not that at all. It's just not the way God wired me, man. I'm a freak. I love I call it a game, but it's not a game, because people are employed by our company, right? Their families are dependent on my leadership and the rest of the leadership making good decisions, being good capital allocators. And so I take it very, very seriously. But man, I love the game. I love trying to win. I love trying to, how do I, and the win to me is not, oh, I beat somebody else out. Did I satisfy my customer's need? And a lot of times, even today, they'll say, hey, what can y'all do? Well, I'm happy to tell you what we can do, but what I can do, you don't care about. You care about what you need. So tell me what you need done, and I'll tell you whether I can do it. And more than likely, unless it's painting fingernails, I'll go figure out how to do it. Because if I'm talking to you as a customer, I'm interested, right? And so that was kind of another one of those running jokes. Like, if as long as it's not fingernails, man, I'm interested in talking about
We're good.
I'll
I'm
figure
pretty
it out.
sure we just got our quote.
Right.
I will figure it out, man. Because again, I used the we word a whole bunch. That was me, myself, and I, in that first 3 years, and there's, when somebody says to you, well, hey, who are you doing this for? Well, okay, now you've asked me a point of honesty. I'm not doing it for anybody. I've done it in the past. I want you to be my first customer. Oh, somebody finally had to say yes, or I'll take a chance on you. And so that's the other part I think about ownership. I don't know what our time here is. I believe as owners, we've got to give back, and don't wait until you've made it to give back. You should be giving back. It's just like on my faith journey. You got to give back before you can give back. And so we've bought into that as a team. We've got a guy, Jason Walker. He's one of my classmates. He's deployed down at A&M at the Veteran Resource Center, helping them, those folks that are down there and want to go through some talent assessments and things that we believe in, help people unpack who they are and be the best version of themselves, right? Because the military, I have a pretty passionate view. Marine Corps, the services in general, they do a great job of taking a civilian, recrunching them and turning them into a military guy. They're not so good at turning you back into the other way. It's tough, right? You just don't do that very well. And so I was fortunate to retire in 06, and it didn't dawn on me till I retired in 14, till about 16. I'm like, hey man, that TAP thing was terrible. That was horrible. And I got extra special, like, hey, we're going to take care of the senior guys. And I'm thinking, man, my son-in-law, well, he wasn't my son-in-law then, but I knew he would eventually be. He's a young enlisted guy. He's going to get garbage if he chooses to get out early, right? And I was just like, dadgummit, I want to do my part now to help influence that as best I can. So that's one of our passion projects, is working on the veteran talent thing. I talked to a lot of guys and gals that are leaving. We have Jason deployed down there trying to help those folks out. So big believer in what Jerry Smith is doing running the Veteran Resource Center, and just privileged as all get out at the Canas Center there. Don and Ellie Canas, those great Americans too, man. They built a great Veteran Resource Center down there. So that's really fun. So I think that's another part of it doesn't really fit into your question, but that's an important part of being a leader and a company. And it's easy to wait to say, I'll do that when I have it. I'm a big believer in, you know what, just go do it early, man. And part of that is because people gave me breaks. They gave me a chance, man. I went in there and said, dude, I need a chance. I just need somebody to give me a chance. I promise you I'll work hard. And they gave them. So I'm going to turn around and give everybody I can a chance, because that's what was done for me.
But then you execute on it, like you talked
about.
Yeah,
amen. Yeah.
So,
got to go execute, right?
Well, Eggs, that was so much amazing value that John is sharing with us. We're going to do something special, and we're actually going to split this into 2 episodes. So make sure that you join us next week when we finish talking to him and hear about what it takes to be the fastest growing Aggie-owned company. In the meantime, make sure you connect with John and his team, and be sure to connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram.
Aggie Growth Hacks was produced by fellow Aggies over at Podcast Architects. We also want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M University. Since 1999, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship has served as the hub of entrepreneurship for Texas A&M. If you're an entrepreneur or even a wantrepreneur, head on over to their website to find a program that's right for you. Just go to aggiegrowthhacks.com/McFerrin right now. Join us next time when we finish our conversation with John. Until then, I am Chris Hunter.
I'm Greg Martin. Thanks and gig 'em.